Memories are amazing things to me. Many times an event or experience will trigger a memory and my mental light bulb will go off. I was around 10 years old. It was that time of year when all my mom's family would gather at my grandmother's farm. The farm was at the foothills of the mountains. Every so often there was a big black car that would go past the farmhouse up into the mountains. In a short while we'd hear a booming sound. Then the car would come down by the house with a few more people in it. My grandparents didn't pay any attention to it, nor did the rest of us. It was just part of everyday life in the country. My grandmother's farm was large, full of stuff for kids to get into. My grandfather wasn't always as enthusiastic about our explorations. It was a blast with a passel of my cousins all running around in a herd all over the farm. I and my one cousin soon tired of the other kids. We then set off in search of better entertainment. In the back of the house just outside the porch kitchen was a small fish pond. My grandmother loved her fish and babied them so. They were very large goldfish that would come to the surface when you fed them. In our casting around for something to do, we thought about playing in the fish pond for a bit. Off we went to the fish pond, but when we arrived, Granddad, our dads, uncles, and other adult men were standing around the pond throwing bits of bread in the pond to feed the fish, talking and seeming to have a great time. My cousin and I sat down on the bench to eavesdrop on the conversation and to watch the entire goings-on. Our dads seemed to be in high spirits, right along with all the other adult men. We couldn't hear all they were saying, but we did catch a few comments about their wives and my mom not catching them doing something. Our curiosity was definitely piqued. We watched them get more and more animated as they were passing around a mason jar of water. The longer we watched, the funnier they got. My curiosity got the best of me, so I went up to my dad and asked if I could have some of that water. He laughed really loud, as did all the other men, and said that it was adult water only. It didn't make any sense to me. If it were water, why couldn't I have any? We went back to the porch and watched in amusement as our dads and other men grew happier. It didn't take too long before my cousin and I became all too bored with the whole thing. We went into the kitchen to grab a cookie or two. Grandma, our moms, and aunts were cooking and talking. Grandma asked my cousin and I how it was going and if we were enjoying ourselves. I shrugged my shoulders and said, "Okay." Then I asked the magic question. "Grandma, what is adult water? Dad wouldn't let me have any." All eyes were on my cousin and I. "What do you mean?" asked my grandmother. "You know, the water for adults that make them happy." All the women glanced at each other and headed for the fish pond. My cousin and I followed. When our dads, grandpa, and our uncles saw their wives approach, it was as if fire had been lit under them. Poof, they were gone. Only a gallon jug and a mason jar of adult water remained. That was when I discovered what moonshine was. I learned that Grandpa had acquired the moonshine from one of the guys who passed the house in a beat-up truck to attend to a still in the mountains. I was able to connect the dots from the one-room schoolhouse to the fish pond event and the adult water. In listening to the conversations that followed, I finally learned what revenuers were. That they were the ones that would go up into the mountain and find the stills, blow them up, thus the booming sound, and then apprehend the ones who were making the moonshine. I still chuckle at the memory of my dad, granddad, and uncles running from the pond. I'm sure the headache that they acquired from partaking in the adult water the next morning wasn't quite so funny. What did I learn from this? If you wait long enough, an answer will reveal itself, and you will then be able to connect the dots. The funnier lesson was why everything, legal that is, should be taken in moderation.